The baseball season looks ready to go here. Baseball coming in with a 60-game season. The big question now for these Cincinnati Reds is, what can they do to make playoffs? I think there's three things they must do this season in order to make playoffs. Number one, most important here, go at least 500 against the division. I don't think it's a secret right now, unless it's a tentative schedule. Everybody keep that in mind. But as of this moment, it is a 40-game schedule for the division, 60 games total. So you're seeing 10 games versus every single division opponent here. I think you look at this and say 12-8 versus the AL Central is very doable for the Reds. And then you consider if 500 is the minimum, the threshold we say against the Central, you're talking 32-28 on a season and 32-28 in this season with the expansion, everything else going on. It's probably a playoff spot. Keep in mind, 32 and 4 games above 500 don't sound like a lot, but you got to remember we're in a shortened season. That's typically what, 8 to 10 games in a regular season there. So it's not a bad spot. It's a good position for the Reds to say, you know what, they can make playoffs. That being said, you look at 2019. They only finished above 500 versus one division rival the entire season, and it wasn't the Pirates, which might be even more shocking here, who they won 7-12 against. It was against the Cubs. The Reds won 11-8, but you look at St. Louis, they was 7-12. You look at Milwaukee, they was 8-11. They got to change that. No questions about it. You go negative against three or 3 of the 4 teams in the division this season, you might as well kiss your chances of making playoffs goodbye. Reds got to compete in this division against their rivals. Number 2 is they got to win the one-run games. I always like to think of the one-run games as kind of a clubhouse type of thing. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, but that confidence, the swagger a team poses in close games, especially when they're down, that they feel like they can come back no matter, 2 runs, 3 runs, 1 run, whatever it is. They always feel like they have that ability to come back and win games. It's not been there, to say the least, for the Reds in these last few years. I don't feel like it's been there personally, at least from a clubhouse standpoint. I don't know if you want to say there just hasn't been a guy there. They just haven't gotten their mojo going. It's been some down seasons, of course. That's got a bigger part to do with it. But I always think of guys like Scott Rowland, Johnny Gomes, even Billy Hamilton, back when he was used just to steal bases, as these guys where you had these guys in the clubhouse or dugout. They made you feel like they gave you hope. They gave you that confidence coming to the plate. Like, we get this guy on base, he's going to steal a couple, we're going to drive him in, we're going to win this game. And obviously Gomes and Rowland not done the stolen base category here, but you think of guys like this, they bring that electricity, that excitement to the dugout that had guys feeling good and confident coming to the plate in the latter innings. I don't know who that guy necessarily will be for the Reds this season, but there are plenty of players capable. One thing I know though for sure is 24-33 in one-run games. The Reds did that last season. Just can't happen this season if they have any hopes of making the playoffs. Third and finally is these bats. These bats need to have a good start to the season. I'm thinking of, there's obviously players coming in the Moose and Castellanos and so forth. Those guys, we'll see what they can do. But just looking at in-house here from Suarez and Votto perspectives, Suarez last season, first 3 months of the season, batted .248, 17 home runs, 48 RBIs. Guys was almost wondering what's going on with him. And then he absolutely tore the cover off the baseball in the last 3 months of the season, batting .303, 32 dingers, 55 RBIs. You do that though this season though, Suarez can carry you. He's got that bat to carry the offense, but you got to see that in the first half. You don't see that in the first half, and there's a problem there, right? Votto, same story. 2016, nearly won the MVP. He'd go on to bat .252 in the first half that season, .408 in the second half. And Votto's, he batted .210 in April and made that exact same season. Last season, one Votto wants to forget altogether, I'm sure, but again, .245 in April. And truthfully, we've seen he's a spectacular player, but we've seen it quite a few times over the years where Votto starts the year slow. He starts the year slow, and ever so coincidentally, that's when we start hearing the rumblings of, does Votto take too many walks? Should he start taking or be more aggressive at the plate? And it's right around those times where he starts to tear the cover off the ball again, and those rumblings go away. But in a year where there's only 60 games, and you consider that's not something you can afford out of your star player in Votto. Again, there's plenty of bats in this lineup that can go around, but I still look at Votto, I still look at Suarez as core pieces. Votto being a guy that could just be your on-base machine this season, and Suarez being that power hitter that he is. These guys can't afford to have their slow Aprils, their slow Mays, where, we start to get into the summertime months and they start to get into the flow of things and starting to be those great hitters that they are. Because you know what? You wait until the Junes and the Julys of this season, the season's over. Can't afford to do it. Got to see these Reds start the season off hot. I think they're more than capable of it. I think they're going to come in a pretty confident bunch. You bring in the pieces they did this free agency. You look at the pitching staff they already have. I think these guys come in with a lot of confidence. They just got to execute early and often. And this team, honestly, I think, has got an easy path to the playoffs if they can.